Welcome, everybody. Do you have problems thinking? Particularly when you have fibro, it's a huge issue. And today we're going to dive. Actually, let me start over
Sure.
because we're
I also
recording
want to
and I
make
can.
sure my phone isn't going to make noise. Good.
There
Okay.
you go. All right. How's your brain? Is it working at peak capacity, or are you suffering from fibro brain fog? What can you do about that? What's going to happen? Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? Can you do anything about it? All these questions and more we're going to be answering right after this. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast online radio and TV network, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your host, Scott Paton. Joining me is our co-host, Maury Zelcovich. Hey, Maury, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Scott. Thanks for asking. And yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm on the Indian Ocean coast of Mozambique, right near the border of South Africa, which kind of explains my background. And today it was really an exciting day. We went out, we saw dolphins, we saw some whales. Whales actually jumped up, which I'd never seen before live and in color and in person. And then they also took their their back tail, and they flapped it a few times. And it was like right there. I was just so amazed. And a number of the people on the boat swam with dolphins, and we saw a hammerhead shark, which is why I don't swim. But it's been a good day. So our goal in these recordings is to discuss some of the issues that the Fibromyalgia Support and Solutions group on Facebook bring up. And one of our purposes is to help hopefully open your minds to there are things that you can do to make fibromyalgia less painful, less of an issue in your life, going from total disability to being able to maybe do a few things. And I want to bring up before we get started, Maury, one of the things that you said that I thought was really, really brilliant. And for those of you that don't know, Maury deals in the mind and how we can calm the mind, heal traumas, almost at tragedies, and use that in getting better. And one of the things I loved about what you said in I think it was our last episode, was if fibromyalgia is like this big ball, right? But this part here has to do with trauma. And this part here maybe has to do with something in the mind. And then this part maybe has to do with nutrition. And if we can break it all apart and we say, you know what, maybe if I can meditate or relax or use the Mind Trainer Pro programs to get my brain working the way that it should be, because part of the problem is it's not that you're insane or psychotic or any of those things. It's the physical part of your brain has issues, and not because of you. It's just the way that it is. And this is research that scientists have done, and they said, yeah, there's a part, they name it. I'm not technical like Martin is. He'd tell you what the part was, and it's like an on off switch, but it's on all the time. And so a lot of what Maury does is help people to turn that off. So, but this whole idea of, it's this big glob, but if we can maybe pull this part out and fix it, then maybe it's not 100% pain. Maybe it's 95 or 90 or 85. And then you do something else, and maybe now it goes down to 70. And then slowly over time, you get better and better and better. So before we move on, Maury, is there anything I missed or anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I'd just like to point out that nothing either of us says is intended to be a medical claim or medical advice. It's very important that we don't lead people on. I'm not a doctor. I suspect Scott is not a doctor either. And I don't even play one on television or the internet. So whatever we're saying, it's compassionate human beings who've done, bits and pieces of research ourselves, and we're kind of relating our experiences. Something you mentioned when you were talking about the whales. I found really intriguing because often pain focuses us. Pain is one of the best ways to focus our mind because when we feel pain, we don't think about anything else. We're
Right.
just thinking about that pain. So if we use that knowledge that the pain focuses us, it draws our attention to how poor we're feeling, then we can kind of reverse engineer a way to perhaps help that get a little better by focusing our attention on something else. I think I mentioned the
Right.
last time that when I feel intense pains, usually the tip of my baby finger doesn't hurt. So I kind of draw my attention there. And as I do that, as it focuses on the tip of my baby finger where I'm not feeling any pain, that helps me release some of the pain and some of the, discomfort I'm feeling elsewhere. Because again, my focus is no longer on the areas that are hurting me horribly. They're now on areas that are not bothering me. And I have found with other clients of mine who have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia that in many cases we go through, it's a diagnosis. They don't really know what it is. So it's this all
Right.
umbrella word. And we have expectations and definitions tied in with that word too. So maybe there's a possibility that some of the pain we experience is expected pain. Maybe it's not really
Um,
a 10, maybe it's a 7 or an 8, or perhaps even lower. But our expectation, our anticipation, because we have that little signal. Oh, I felt that twinge in my hand. I know what that means. And that kind of makes you play 3D chess where you start moving steps ahead before they even happen. And we bring it into fruition. So part of what I do is I try to help people to realize that the expectation might be increasing it. The belief systems might be increasing the experience of what we're having. And as any of
yeah.
us know who've experienced pain, if we can change, like you were saying, Scott, about changing the focus, changing the nexus, taking out little pieces that have influence and dealing with the areas that we can deal with, the goal is to optimize ourselves so that we don't have the same experience. We can go out and do things. And getting back to what you were saying about the whales and the shark and everything, getting out in nature is a great way to alter your experience and alter your focus. There's even research on pain that says that the color green, so if you have the opportunity to sit in nature, or even better yet, to walk in nature if you can, that has been shown, and you can look this up. It's been shown to help people with their pain levels. So there's a lot of things that we can do to support ourselves. And above anything else, there's tons of research. And again, you can look this up that actually says if we take an active role in our treatment, then that tends to give a better outcome. So people who just listen to other people and don't think for themselves and don't take an active role in their healing, in their body, in their mind, don't tend to do as well as people who do take that responsibility. And that doesn't mean you blame yourself, but it means you say, hey, I'm always going to be on the lookout for ways that I can feel better. And then I'm going to try things. If they can't hurt me, then I'm going to try it. And you just never know. So,
I guess that's a really good point, Maury. And it's like if your pain level is 10 and 10 is the top, then what can you do that's going to make it worse? Not much, right? I mean, you can. I mean, you can chop off your hand and stuff, but really, if it's the maximum pain that you've got, unless there's a new maximum, go sit on the grass, go hug a tree,
yeah,
and I want to kind of not add to your story, but I want to. I had a situation happen when I was a grocery store manager, and I think it really talks to the point that you were making. And I wanted to put it in a. It would be a parable if it wasn't the fact that it's true and it happened and everything else, but in a way that's outside of pain and outside of talking about fibromyalgia, because sometimes people just get triggered by, oh, well, He says there's no pain, but I know there is pain, blah, 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 blah. So here's what Maury said in a totally different environment. I ran a grocery store, and my clerk calls me and says, Mr. Paton, you have to come down. There's a customer here. She is furious and she won't tell me what's wrong. She needs to talk to the manager. So I says, okay. And I came down. This is probably 25 or 30 years ago. And there's a lady at the front of the store. And yep, she is furious. And she's got a bag with our logo on it and something in the bag. So I walk up to her, and before she can say a word, I say, I don't know what your problem is, but I'm going to fix it. And she went from to, oh my God. And she pulls out a can of beans, 33 cents. And it has been dented and cut, so it could have bacteria in it. Who knows? Like, you shouldn't eat a can that's been dented or cut. Oh, there's a cut in it. So she says, I noticed this when I got home. Joe, go get her another one. Joe runs off, brings her another one. Oh, thank you. And she leaves. Well, obviously, she got home, saw the can, and she went, I'm going to take it to the store. And they're going to say, where's your bill? And I'm going to say, I don't know where the bill is. And then they're going to say, well, how do we know you got it? And then they're going to get, I'm going to say that. And then they're going to say this. And I'm going to say that. And they're going to say this. And I'm going to say that. And then she comes to the store. She's already had the fight in her head, right? And so how often do we have that fight in our head before any sort of reality occurs, right? And so and I think what you were saying about dealing with all of that is absolutely right on. And we need to be aware of that and reduce it. You can tell yourself a different story. I have a can of beans. I'm going to take it back. They're going to happily refund me my can of beans, and no problem. I'm a little bit inconvenienced having to go back, but that's life.
That's actually a beautiful story. That's really well put.
Thank you. Thank you, Maury. All right, everybody. So we're going to be talking about brain fog versus fibro fog. And this comes from Sally in the group. I'm not going to say her last name. And she posted this yesterday. And I just saw it today. And I thought, oh, well, Maury, let's you and I talk about this. And so I'll start off by reading what she wrote. And she included a video, but I'm not going to play the video. Brain fog versus fibro fog. Your gut isn't just about digestion. It's constantly talking to your brain. When that communication is disrupted, brain fog is one of the first signs. By the way, we haven't read this before, so we have no idea where she's going. And you're getting our unfiltered first impressions and thoughts. Brain fog is a general term. Fibro fog is a type of brain fog, but brain fog isn't always fibro fog. It's a non-medical description of reduced mental clarity. It can come from many causes: poor sleep, long COVID, gut brain issues, menopause, trauma, medication, side effects, nutritional deficiencies, stress. People often say, I can't think straight. My head feels cloudy. I'm forgetful or slow. Fibro fog, specific to fibromyalgia, is a subset of brain fog, and it's closely tied to your fibromyalgia. Often described as worse memory problems, trouble finding words, difficulty concentrating, alongside physical fatigue and pain. Researchers link it to nervous system overactivation, poor sleep quality. Well, of course, we know in fibro that's a big, big deal. And chronic pain's impact on attention and working memory. And like, how can you focus on something when your whole body is in pain, right? The term fibro fog helps fibro patients feel understood because it captures the unique intensity and persistence of cognitive issues that they experience. Fibro fog is brain fog, but not all brain fog is fibro fog. The difference matters because many people with fibromyalgia feel dismissed when they say their thinking is cloudy. It's not just stress, it's part of the condition. So if you live with fibromyalgia, what's the hardest part of fibro fog for you? Forgetting words, losing focus, memory slips. And if you're struggling with fog, fibro or otherwise, what treatment therapy have you tried? Has it worked? She'd like to hear back, so you're going to have to do a search for this post. What if I told you therapy can help clear the mental clutter while lifestyle changes aren't enough? So that's basically what she wrote. So, what are your first thoughts, Maury?
Well, my first thoughts are that it's kind of a mistake, I believe, to generalize to everybody what our beliefs are. So, what I'm about to say is purely my own understanding currently. And in some cases, it might be enough for some of you just to make some changes in your diet. It might make a difference to listen to some meditations or brainwave entrainments that help you to sleep better at night. It's not a matter of feeling helpless. I have felt for the longest time that pain and discomfort is actually a message. And if we look at it and define it as something bad, because remember, I don't know if any of you have heard any of these previous shows, but I spent the first 40 years of my life seriously depressed and suicidal. And most of that was born out of me misinterpreting psychological pain and physical pain as a punishment, as what did I do to deserve this? You know, I would see other people walking down the street smiling, and I'd be saying, how come them and not me? So for me, your pain might be carrying a message as well. And as long as you look at it as something horrible, you might be missing the message. Can I tell you a little story about when I was 7 years old? This is a kind of a silly
Absolutely.
story, but
That's
thank you. So I played hooky from school. I was a little kid. My mom was at home. She wasn't working yet at this point in her life at a job. She was working very hard as a homemaker, and taking care of me, believe me, was a big enough job. But I was playing hooky from school. She didn't know I was faking being sick. So I got bored sitting in front of the idiot box, which is what we used to call the TV. Now, this would be the modern version of an idiot box. But what happened was I was bored. So I went into the kitchen and I started tugging on her apron. Like, mommy, mommy, play with me. I'm bored. And she said, honey, I'm tired. I'm cooking. I'm talking to your aunt. You're sick. You need to lie down, watch some TV, drink some water, get some rest, and feel better. So she went back to her cooking and went back to the phone call. At that moment, I noticed the stovetop. And back in the olden days, you know, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, stovetops were raised, and they were these little like spirals of metal, and they glowed. They glowed yellow and orange and red and blue. It was so cool, kind of like a lava lamp. And I started reaching out to touch it. And my mom said, honey, don't do that, because she saw me. And she said, honey, don't do that. You'll burn yourself. You know, very calm, very sweet, very loving voice. This happened another 7 times. By the 6th time, remember I said 6, not 7th. By the 6th time, her voice had raised to the point of yelling, and she actually slapped my hand. She said, honey, don't do that. You'll burn yourself. I, of course, being the brilliant 7-year-old that I was, totally ignored her, waited for her to get distracted, reached out the last time. She did not catch me, and I had rings melted into my hand. For weeks, I couldn't bend my fingers without it being excruciating pain. Touching it, excruciating pain, because I didn't listen to the message. That's the moral of the story. Funny, it took me to late adulthood to figure out the lesson that this is actually teaching me a lesson. So I wasn't learning from the message I was getting. So what happened? The message, which is trying to help me and keep me from hurting myself, kept getting louder and stronger and more painful, until finally it gave me the ultimate pain because I was just too stupid to listen. Now, I'm not saying any of you are as dumb as I was, okay? But I am saying that maybe in the pain there is a message. Maybe there is something you're eating or drinking that is exacerbating the issue, making it worse than it needs to be. Maybe there's something in your mind that is seeing precursors, little hints of what is to come. And then you lock onto that precursor and your brain kind of brings it into reality, brings that flare up. I honestly believe that there is a message in the pain. And when I felt the pain throughout my 40 years of being in psychological pain and physical pain, this is what I did when the trigger happened. I raised my arms, I closed my eyes, I turned my head, I stopped looking. When I changed my outlook and I thought, well, maybe the pain has a message for me and I'm just not getting it, then I leaned forward and I started listening. And the funny thing is, things got better. I encourage you to look at your pain as a red light on the dashboard of your life. If you drive, if you ride a motorcycle, whatever, your dashboard has lights on it. Your car infotainment system and information system will blink and tell you if this is working, if this isn't working, all these different things. Why is it that when our car tells us it needs help, we listen to it? We go to the doctor for the cars, we go to the mechanic. But when our lives give us these red flags, these red lights, we ignore them. We take the proverbial electrical tape and tape over that area so we don't see it anymore. I'm not saying that this is what all of you are doing, but I'm saying that it's something you may want to consider, that there may be a message in the pain. And if you can get that message, the pain may not have to be as bad as it is. And that gives hope. Remember that in a really, really, really dark room, a pinprick of light is easy to spot. In a really, really bright room, it's very hard to notice a pinprick of black or darkness. So take advantage of that pinprick of light and start reimagining your interpretation of the pain away from a punishment, away from why is this happening to me, to what is it trying to tell me?
That's
And
a
I'd
great
love to
story.
hear your stories about that once you change your attitude. Thank you. It really, I truly believe in that.
I have a similar story, but I'm the dad, and I like to make carrot juice. So I had this juicer, and I would be putting the carrots in, and my son, who would be like four, no, sorry, around 8. No, he would have been 6. He's on a chair right beside me, helping me, right? So I move like this, I get the carrots, and I look back. His hand is in the juicer, and he's trying to put it down. Fortunately, he can't put it down because he can't get his elbow up high enough to go down, right? So he's kind of stuck. And I'm like, no, at the top of my lungs. And I pull out his hand and he looks at me. He's all shaking because why is daddy yelling at me? And I look at him. I said, did you want to see what it felt for the carrots? And he goes, yeah, it hurts.
Wow.
It hurts. And never did it again. Of course, I never not watched him if he was anywhere near that thing again too. Right. But, yeah. So
Well,
it's like we
you
get
bring up
these
a really good
messages.
point. Well, that's it.
Go
You know
ahead.
what's funny? In the animal kingdom, if an animal eats a berry off of a bush and gets sick, never eats it again. In the
And
human
neither do
kingdom,
his relatives.
that's right. But in the human kingdom, if we eat something that makes us sick, we take a antacid or something. So that, I mean, there's even TV commercials for highly spicy foods that goes, "Do you eat this and get horrible heartburn? Well, you don't need to anymore. Your body's telling you don't eat this. That's what your body's actually telling you. If it makes you feel that bad, don't eat it. Pay attention, keep a journal. When you get an attack, what was I doing 5 minutes before? What was I doing half an hour before? Well, record
Yeah.
what you're doing and you might make some connections. Why do humans do that? Your body is telling you this isn't good for you. Taking an
Yeah.
antacid
Well,
just gets rid of the acid. It doesn't get rid of the problem.
and Maury, we do that every weekend because a ton of people go to the bar, they drink too much, they're hungover for 2 days, and then they start back at work, and they don't learn the lesson until they're like 10 years later in their 30s or 40s decide, well, maybe I shouldn't be drinking so much. And sometimes it doesn't happen until they're in their 70s or 80s, and sometimes it never happens. But I really think journaling is a really important aspect. Like, um, a week ago, I went on a carb binge. I saw this beautiful cinnamon bun, and then there was this really nice bread, and there was some, I don't think, a bun or meat pie.
Uh,
And I just looked at all of it and I went, oh, I love this stuff. And I bought it all. And within about 2 hours, I ate it all. And I was fine. When I have carbs, I'm a little bit slow. I might have a nap, but I was fine. The next 2 days, my body was in absolute agony. Every part of my body was in pain. I was stiff. It's like I ran 10 miles yesterday. All my muscles weren't moving the right way. And I was just full of pain. And it was like, I told Martin, and he says, yeah, he says, that's carbs will make you all inflamed. Good, you
oh
know.
yeah.
And so I've been eating like meat and vegetables for the last week since that. And it's, I have very little pain. I mean, there's always a little bit of, there is always a little bit of pain in certain places of my body, and I stretch it out and everything else. But if it was a 10, and I'm not saying it was, but if it was a 10, then it's a 0.5 now.
Right.
And do you think I learned the lesson? Do you think I will not have a cinnamon bun sometime in the future? I didn't learn the lesson. But there's a big difference between having a cinnamon bun in the morning and in the afternoon every day for the rest of your life, and then wondering why I'm in pain. And
Yeah.
there's, I mean, I can make that choice, right? Like I can say, you know what? I'm not in any pain. Everything feels really good. I'm going to have a cinnamon bun. And tomorrow, if I'm in pain, I know that's why. And I won't have any more cinnamon bun. Or I'll have the cinnamon bun and I won't have the meat pie and 3 slices of bread. Because it was just too much, right? Like
Sure.
you have to, just like I can have 1 beer and no problem. If I have 12 beer, I've got a problem. So, it does, a lot of times we say things that I think they say abstinence, right? It's 0. No, abstinence is this hurts, this doesn't hurt. So do this level. And
Yeah.
maybe it's 0, right? Like, but you can tell. But like if you don't have bread for a month and then you have 1 slice and you're in pain the next day, probably the bread's the culprit, right? And you shouldn't have it. But the chances are you'll be fine.
So here is I had mentioned journaling, you had mentioned journaling. Then a thought came to me. Why don't we just use our phones, right? And use our voice to text and open up our note thing, make a shortcut to our notes. And whenever we do anything, we mark it out. Went for a walk, going for a walk now, ending the walk now, blah, 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 blah. Had a donut, had a piece of red meat, blah, blah, blah. Whatever we're doing, had a cigarette, whatever we did, put it in there. And then at the end of the week, and when you're having attacks, when you're having the pain, when you're having this, you say, you know what? My arm doesn't feel so hot right now. My wrist is sore. I can't bend it, whatever. Then at the end of every week, you take your full notes, you drag and drop them into Chat GPT or whichever one you like
Ah,
best. And you say, can you please analyze this and give me any relationships that you may find with respect to my activities and my pain?
that's a
It
really
will
good idea.
actually act like a professional analyst. You can even say, act as a professional, statistician and forensic analyst and go over everything in my notes and tell me if you see any congruities between my activity, my actions, what I'm doing, and my experience of pain.
Right. That's a really good idea. I was thinking when you were talking that I love Google Calendar, and you can make events that are different colors. So red is pain, right? So it's 6 o'clock right now in the evening where I am. My pain is like 8, and then you just put pain 8, make it red, and stick it on the calendar, right? And then in the morning you have breakfast. This is what I had for breakfast. I went for a mile walk. I had a nap. You could put it as a journal in the calendar. And then you just look at the colors. Wow. Like every time I have a cinnamon bun, an hour later, I have a 2-hour nap and I'm out cold. Like you could be as descriptive or non-descriptive as you want, right? Or every time I walk up a hill, my ankle hurts. My left ankle hurts. Maybe I
Yeah.
should go see the doctor about that. And you can start to make correlations, right? And some correlations,
Sure.
particularly when it comes to food, can be like a week later. Like you could be in pain for a week from something you ate last week. And
Mhm.
then, and you don't know
Could
that's
be a
what it is
combination
because,
of things too.
and a combination of things, right?
Yeah.
So, and, you green could be, I'm at a 1 or a 2 in my pain. And then, you stick it there and then right underneath had cinnamon bun,
Yeah.
pain 10.
There you
After
go.
a
Yeah, there's
while,
a correlation there for sure.
you can kind of see it, right?
Yeah.
Because that's big problem is we don't get that instantaneous. We don't often get that instantaneous result. People that have, illnesses, oftentimes it's a buildup, and a buildup of a
Mhm.
lot of different things, right? And you need to,
That's why I
like you said,
suggested you
I love that clump. You start pulling it apart, right?
That's exactly why I suggested using ChatGPT, because a lot of people may not have the wherewithal, the patience to be able to make those connections by looking at the
Right.
red and this and this and that. And ChatGPT will help them to focus on these things. So people who aren't scientists, who aren't statisticians, who aren't researchers can still get the benefit. And keep in mind, any AI hallucinates, any AI makes stuff up. So
Right.
don't just take what it says as the truth, but see if it resonates with you. You have the system, you have the best system installed in your brain. If you feel like something makes sense, then it probably makes sense. If it says
Unless
something
you
really
have brain fog,
stupid, unless you have
in
brain
which case
fog.
then you have no sense. I mean, nothing makes
But
sense. Not that you have no
right,
sense.
right, and exactly. But getting back to the fibro fog, uh, that can be said to have a great deal to do with the level of pain and the focus on the pain. So it's difficult to focus on anything else when the pain is there.
Right. So I'd like to do one more before we wrap up, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Um, because I just think this is a really good lesson in terms of a lot of things. So let me just read this. The person was anonymous. So yesterday I came home so freaking mad. This lady said to me that any chronic condition like fibromyalgia, lupus, MS, cancer, drug addictions, and even being gay, and kept naming many other things, are all in our head. That she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and one day she told herself, I will not accept this, and told God to take her condition away, woke up cured the next day. That if you really want something with your heart and soul, God will take it away. I was livid how the fucking things don't work that way. I got up and told her, no wonder she is so ignorant and stop. Stupid. And even her own, she edited herself, which was really nice. And I'm unediting her. Or and even her own family hates her. But man, why are there people like this? I believe in God and I know he helps me every day and is with me, but things don't work like she thinks. And sadly, many others think like this too. Please support other people with different conditions and know it's not in your head and you will not be cured from one day to another. Keep your heads up high and hope you guys are not dealing with people like this on a daily basis. So, rather than talk about the lady who said God cured me or the lady who said what she said triggered, actually, it's what she said triggered me because she was so mad. So that's not going to help her emotional state. That's really not probably going to be a healthy thing for her. And the part I really want to bring up at the beginning, then we can go wherever we want to go, is her reaction to the lady was way worse than anything the lady said. Like, who cares? Like, or let me put it a different way. Maury, you bumped your head and you got a big bruise. And so you went to the hospital, they put a little something on the hospital, you didn't have a concussion, and the next day the bruise went away. And so we get together and you tell me that. What do I say? I say, I'm glad you're okay. Thank goodness you don't have a big ball, golf ball bump on your head, right? And if it only took
Sure.
a day or it took an hour or it took a week, I don't care. I think I'm glad you're okay, right? So, you know, so and then if you say, well, Scott, if you went to the hospital whenever you had a problem, and I don't go ever, right? Because I don't believe in hospitals, just to get out of the whole God thing. uh, I would say, well, thank you very much for telling me that. And, I'll take it under consideration. I don't have to get furious with you because you went and did something and had a good result. And I don't believe that you can go and do that and have a good result. And to me, it's like a lot of times, if emotional triggers cause a lot of flare ups, then we should be doing everything we can to let everything be like water off a duck's back. Like, it's not like she took a knife and tried to kill you. She didn't take out a gun and shoot at you, right? You were not in any danger. You just heard something you didn't like. And we hear stuff we don't like all the time, you know, politics and this religion and that religion. It's all there, right? All the time. So I think we need to make a decision that, thank you for sharing. I'll take that under consideration. And I don't need to talk anymore about it. I don't need to tell you that I think you're stupid. I don't need to tell you that you're an idiot. I don't need to do all those things. What benefit is it to me personally to go and attack you that way? Right. I may feel you attacked me first and my reaction is to attack you. And I'm not saying any of this is easy, by the way. This is something that's taken me many decades of practice and working on to be able to just say, you know what? It's raining today. I wanted to go out with the dolphins. I can't go because it's too windy. It's raining. There's lightning. So what am I going to do? Yell and scream and bang my head against the wall? No, I'll get a book and I'll sit and read, or I'll watch a TV show, or I'll do whatever it is that you end up doing that day. And but I think what happens is we're so hung up in the you have to believe me state, right? That it's like, why? Who cares what they think,
Yeah.
right? So that's my
For
rant on
me,
that. I'd love to hear your position.
yeah, for me, there were two things going on here. One was a misunderstanding on both parts, and the other is a non-understanding. So the misunderstanding was the first woman, great for her. That's phenomenal news that she feels so much better. That goes beyond. But her kind of alluding to everybody else that if you don't have enough faith, if you're not as pious as me, she's kind of holier than thou.
Yeah,
If you're, the reason why you're still in pain is because you're not a good Christian or not a good Jew or not a good Muslim or not a good whoever, Buddhist, whatever. I think that's what triggered the second woman, frankly,
right,
because that's kind of what would have triggered me in a past life too. Was I'm happy for you. I'm truly happy for you, but don't try to push your crap on me
right.
because in my view, in my world, something else probably happened to
Yeah,
allow you to feel this way. Maybe you got rid of something. Maybe you changed the detergent you use, and that is something you were hyper allergic to, and that was causing your problem. It could have been any number of things. It doesn't have to be that you're more pious or God loves you more than God loves me.
right.
The thing that
And
I
it
think
could,
is
and you,
more,
and she could also, if I can interrupt you for just a second,
yeah,
that lady who changed the detergent could very easily say, it was inspiration from God that I got this detergent instead of that. Wonderful
sure,
for you. I'm so happy
yeah,
for you. And that not in any sort of sarcastic way or anything else. That's
yeah,
entirely within that belief system. And I would have no problem with that at all.
yeah.
So I think you bring up a really, really good point.
Thank you. Well, the second point is that I think what's more important is that we all understand. Look, fibromyalgia. There's what 160,000 people in this group. That's frightening. But you know
Yeah.
what? I don't think any one person, in my view, this is my view, no one get triggered here, understands what any of you are going through. It's unique. Everybody
Yeah.
has their unique experience. In my view of the world currently, everybody lives in their own universe. And quantum physics at its most basic level, to me, says that nothing exists until it is observed. That includes things like pain. That includes things like love or hate or beauty or a washing machine. It doesn't exist until it's observed. But humans observe something and give it meaning as well. We just don't see something and go, oh, there's something there. We go, oh, that's a car. Oh, that's a person. Oh, that's, a tall person, a small person, a thin person, whatever.
The
We give it a
tree with
definition.
green leaves.
A tree with green leaves, exactly. A rock with worms underneath it if we flip it over and we take a look. So that means that you can look at something and I can look at something and we are looking at the same thing, but because we interpret it differently, we had different parents, different religious upbringing, different school chums, different schools, different language, different this, different that. There's so many differences that you're not going to see exactly what I see. I'm not going to see exactly what you see. And having that understanding that we are actually existing in separate universes that occasionally encroach upon each other. Sometimes they blend, sometimes they just rub up against each other. That helps us to not be judgmental. That helps us to
Right.
do what you were saying, Scott. It helps people to say, good for you. Even if it's not good for me, I can still be happy for you
Right.
because I understand that even like it doesn't matter whether I agree with you or not because your universe is you, which means it's real for you, which means it's your truth. My
Right.
universe is real for me. How I interpret it is my universe. It's my truth. We respect each other easier. We don't argue. We're not waiting for the other person to shut up so we can tell them how wrong they are. Instead, we can learn because we understand that they're seeing things differently. Maybe there's some knowledge for us in seeing things differently.
Right. Right. And yeah, that's a very, very important point. And I think that we need to spend more time trying to get that into our minds because everybody is triggered by different things and it's not going to not happen. It's going to happen. The question is like, okay, I'm triggered. Do I throw a rock at that person or do I just say, well, that's your opinion. I respect your opinion. It's not mine. The question that came up when I was listening to you and I forgot, now I remember again, was what are the chances of me changing your mind? Zero, right? Like the chances of either of these two ladies changing their mind based on the little snippet we've seen is never going to happen, right? So when you're talking with somebody, what is the chance you're going to change that person's mind? If it's zero, why are you banging your head against the wall, right? It's like you have to accept it. They're going to be like that, right? Um, and of course, we live in a world where nagging goes on and put the seat down and clean up the dishes and the big joke about the husband complaining, you asked me to do something and I'm going to do it, and she says, yeah, well, I asked you 6 months ago. Right. So and we are people who change and evolve and everything else, but in that second when you're being triggered by somebody and you want to argue with them, if you ask the question, what are the chances of me changing their mind? And the answer is zero, then it's kind of like back off because all you're going to be doing is creating more and more of the negative energy that you don't want in your life. And the body reacts to that. Like we know, if you're thinking negative thoughts and rage and hate and mad and all that sort of stuff, it affects you deeply. And by not doing that, you're at least taking a little step towards a more healthy life.
I've seen research that shows that if for every negative thought you express verbally, that gives birth to between 500 to 5,000 negative thoughts within the next 24-hour period. So imagine if you're bitching at someone nonstop for like 10 minutes and you've now said like 40, 50 times something negative. That is 40 or 50 times 500 if you're lucky. That's 20,000 times you're going to think something negative, and that's at the
Yeah.
low end of the spectrum.
And you won't even be aware that you're thinking those thoughts,
No,
right?
but
Like
they
I
will
think,
be tightening your muscles. Imagine, don't do
yes,
this anyone at home, okay? But I'm making a fist. It doesn't really hurt right now, but the more I hold it, the more I feel my muscles straining, the more I feel my knuckles not, locking, and now I'm starting to feel pain.
yeah,
I relax it, I feel better. But just
yeah,
imagine what you do to yourself when you're angry all the time, when you're pissed off at your neighbor, when you're annoyed by something going on around you. You can make the choice to not make a fist. You can make
right,
the choice to just let it go. And when you let it go, that might take some percentage points off the edge.
yeah. And certainly if you're doing it consistently and over time, right? Like we have a conscious mind, do we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind? I think you don't think that.
I
Is that
actually
a,
don't believe in the conscious or the subconscious. I believe in we have a mind. It's kind of like my left hand is waving at you, I'm pointing at you, I'm making a fist at you. I didn't just show you 3 different hands, right? I showed you one
right,
hand that does 3 different things. So that's what the mind is. It's not like there's a fight going on between your subconscious and unconscious
right.
minds. At least
No,
that's
and
my
I was thinking about it in terms of awareness. So your mind is aware of some things that you think and is not aware of other things that you think. Is that
fair
fair?
enough. Keep in
Yeah.
mind, you're in your universe, I'm in mine. So yes, you're right. There's an old song from the 1930s, and a line in it says, "You're always right and I'm never wrong." Ever since I adopted that philosophy, life is so much more relaxed for me.
That's a great philosophy to have, right?
Yeah. Well, you
So
don't judge people
so
anymore then.
right, right. So the point I was trying to make was when you talked about those 20,000 negative thoughts, is it's not he's a bad guy, he's a bad guy, he's a bad guy going on con okay, in an awareness thing. Like there's the brain is making all of these thoughts, or the mind is making all of these thoughts. I shouldn't be going like this when I say that, circling my forehead. But you've got all this churning of thoughts that are going on, and on an awareness level, you may not be aware of it. Like, oh, I'm the most positive person in the world, but you've got 20,000 negative thoughts that you're not paying attention to that are causing havoc in your body. And so
Sure.
you
Hey, if you breathe bad air, it can make you sick. If you eat bad food, it can make you sick. You don't have to be aware that the air is bad or the food is bad.
that's right.
It'll still make you sick. So,
Cool. All right. So we're going to wrap this all up. Maury, thank you so much for everything that you've contributed. It's been really valuable. And I also want to give you an opportunity to talk to everybody a little bit about Mind Trainer Pro, that you have on your hat. So a little bit about what what it's about and how you feel it can help people
sure.
who have
Thank you very
fibromyalgia.
much. So, here's the thing, our brains operate based on stimulation. At least that's one of the ways that they operate. It's the kind of stimulation. In my view, if it doesn't pass through your brain, you don't know it's there. So whether it's a trigger, whether it's pain, whether it's love, whether it's hate, whether it's anything at all, you won't notice it's there. If I slap myself in the face and my head flies off to the side and it flies back, if my brain doesn't register that I was slapped in the face, I won't know that that happened. So here's the trick. With sound, most of us have listened to music. And you'll notice if you're listening to music you like, you kind of bop your head, you tap your toes. This is something you're doing mindlessly. The beauty of that is that we can elicit responses using sounds and sometimes imagery like bump, 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 that will encourage your neurons, your brain cells, to follow the same types of frequencies, the same pulse beat. When that happens, the neurons release certain types of chemistry, just like they release chemistry when you're in pain, just like they release chemistry when you can't sleep at night. But this is different chemistry. And much like the line goes, if you continue to do the same thing and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity. It's kind of the same idea with your brain. So if we can make your neurons to pulse in a different way, and they will naturally follow these reactions, these pulses, then that will naturally create different chemistry. And it's the chemistry that creates your perception of anything going on around you, how you interpret everything. So the general idea is you put on these headphones, you lay down or you sit with head support, you close your eyes. You can even have a nap because of something called the frequency following response. That will allow the tones to entrain or encourage the neurons to pulse at the same rate, which then encourages them to produce the right chemistry. Much like driving a car, you don't need to know all this garbage I just told you. Okay. It's not important. What's important is that you know how to use the car. So to use it, like I said, put on an ordinary pair of stereo headphones, lie back, close your eyes, have a nap for half an hour. That's it. Everything happens automatically. There's nothing to learn. There's nothing to study. There's nothing to do. It's all about retraining your brain to act differently. And by acting differently, the idea is that your experience changes as well. And that's what Mind Trainer Pro is about. It's about optimizing your brain, optimizing how you use it to give you a different experience.
Awesome. And I'm using it and I'm loving it. So thank you
Thank you.
so much for bringing that to the world, Maury. And thank you
My
for
pleasure.
joining us, everybody. This has been the Life Enthusiast Health Shots online TV, and I'm getting my whole spiel mixed up because we just changed it. It's the and of course I have Martin that it's anchored it, not Maury. So of course I'm just screwing it right up. So thanks for joining us, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Shots show, restoring vitality to you and the planet. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Hey! Hey!